We will be discussing fractions, what they are, how to do the 4 basic operations, addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division of fractions. That's an awful lot. So before we get into that, there are some things you need to know. First of all, the vocabulary of fractions, the words of fractions are very, very important. And you need to know them because we're going to be using them all the time. So some of them you already know, and we'll just review, and some of them might be new to you, so that's okay. If you don't understand what I'm saying and you need to look at a definition in words, you can always look in the glossary of your MyMath book. Okay, so let's get started. Here are some fractions. Here we have a couple of fractions. First thing to know about fractions, the top number is called the numerator. The bottom number is called the denominator. This thing between them is a division bar. It's division bar. Because fractions are division questions. This fraction says we have 6 divided by 8. Well, if you have 6 of something, if you have 6 cans of soda and you want to divide them among 8 people, each person is going to get less than 1 can of soda because you don't have enough. That's the whole concept of fractions. So we have numerator, denominator, division bar. This fraction is called an equivalent fraction because it is equal to this fraction. Well, how can that be? The numbers are all different. They are. But if you were to draw a picture, which I did, because I'm an artist, right? Here I have drawn my 2 fractions. You can see that in my top bar, if the whole bar is equal to 1, and I like to do my fractions rather than in circles. Circles get really, really hard when the numbers get big, but bars are awesome because if you all of a sudden are doing your fractions and you need more room, you can just add on to the bar and nobody knows. So I call these my Hershey bars. So my first Hershey bar, I have 3/4 of the Hershey bar is colored red. You can see that, right? 1, 2, 3. So the numerator represents the number of pieces of the whole. The denominator represents what the whole is divided into in total. So here I would have 3 of a total of 4 pieces of my Hershey bar. Does anybody want chocolate? I feel like I want chocolate. Maybe later. Okay. Anyway, so equivalent fractions, equal fractions. Look at my second Hershey bar. It's the same size Hershey bar. So this is 1 whole and this is 1 whole. But this Hershey bar has been divided into 8 pieces. Maybe I want to share it with more people. That doesn't seem likely. Anyway, mind off the chocolate. That's the problem with using Hershey bars in fractions. Yeah, you're easily distracted. Anyway, I have colored in 6 of the 8 pieces. So this is my fraction 6/8. But you'll notice, if we look and compare these two, don't you notice that my 3 pieces are equal to my 6 pieces? Yes, 3/4 is equal to 6/8 because all I did was divide these big pieces into half, and then I got my 8 pieces. So when you're dealing with numbers rather than pictures, there we go. If I wanted to show that these are equal and reduce this fraction to its simplest form, and all that means is it can no longer be reduced anymore because it's as simple as it can get. All I have to do is I can look for the common factor between these 2 numbers, 8 and 6. So if I divided the 6 by 2, and the biggest rule of fractions, here it is. Remember this rule. Whatever you do to the top, you must also do to the bottom. That keeps it equal. Biggest rule of fractions. So if I divide the top by 2, I have to divide the bottom by 2. And guess what that gives me? 3/4. You can see that. Green is not as good. But you can see that my 2 fractions are equal. And you can see it with the numbers, and you can see it with my pictures as well. Okay? Next, we go on to these kinds of fractions. This first one looks a little weird. The top number, the numerator, is larger than the denominator. This type of fraction is called an improper fraction. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it. It just means it looks different than my other fractions where the numerator was smaller than the denominator. Whenever you have a smaller numerator, that means you have less than one piece, one whole rather. You have less than one whole, and you can see that with my picture. I had 3 pieces out of 4 were colored, and that was less than one whole Hershey bar. In this improper fraction, I would have 5 out of the 4 pieces would be colored, and that would be more than a whole. In fact, that would be 1 whole and 1/4. And this is now called a mixed number because it's a whole number and a fraction mixed together. That's why they call it a mixed number. Okay? Our next kind of fraction, which is very, very important, is, actually I have it right here, this one. This is called a unit fraction. A unit fraction is any fraction where the numerator is 1. And it's called a unit fraction because it illustrates 1 unit of that whole. So 1/4 illustrates 1 of a whole divided into 4. 1/4 is a unit fraction. Okay, so that is the vocabulary of fractions, and you are going to have a note on fraction vocabulary. But this note is a little bit different because it is a fill-in-the-blank note. Now, you may use this video to help you fill this in. You may use your glossary. You may use your MyMath book, the lessons of chapter 8, the first lesson or so, to fill in your vocabulary note, and we will be taking that up in class. Please do your note in pencil so that if you do make a mistake, you can easily correct it. This will probably not be graded, but you never know. So do your best work, and we will take it up in class to make sure that when you put this note in your math notebook, it will be perfect and correct. If you have any questions though, please feel free to email me or bring your questions to class and we will answer them then. Thanks guys, see you next time for the start of chapter 8. Bye now.